Welcome to Novel Ideas, where we chat with local authors. I'm Carolyn Luck, and this is my co-host, Josh Brogadir.
It's great to be with you guys. Also great to be with you, Carol. Thanks again for coming along for the journey.
Well, this has been fun. And this evening we have as our guest Warren Ross, a picture book author, and we'll take it from there.
Not our first picture book author, but exclusively picture book author, from what we understand. Although you might have other ideas in your head.
Oh, I have lots of ideas, but for now, these small books are about all I can handle. Thank you.
So let's jump right into writing a picture book, writing a book for children. There are many people who say, I have this idea in my head. I want to put it to page. How did you go about deciding this was something you were going to do?
I had retired from my profession. I wanted some kind of endeavor involving the arts and writing. And I'm not as sharp as I used to be. So I thought, how about children's picture books? And I'm kind of a child anyway, so it made sense.
Now, you say you're not as sharp as you used to be, but still there's a lot of wit involved in these children's books. As sharp as a children's book can get, these ones certainly have that.
Thank you very much.
Is that part of your personality that you say that you wanted to make sure shines through in your writing? Or?
Absolutely, yes. Yes. I'm sort of a child, as I said. Humor is a big part of my character. A lot of funny things enter my brain all the time, as you might find out during this interview. You never know what might come out.
Please share them. Thank you.
Yes, you have a real way with words, as if you just love to play with words in and of themselves. How did you get started with some of this?
Well, that was sort of a sport in my family from the time that I was young, so that got me started. And after that, I really enjoyed it so much and had friends who did it and just kept going.
When did you know that you loved books? Was this as a child you decided? Or were you someone who always enjoyed reading and followed up on that in your life?
Absolutely, yes. I remember very well when I was just 3 or 4 years old looking at books for the first time. I didn't even know what they were. I mean, it was pieces of paper with colors on it and pictures and words. I didn't know what words were, but to me it was magical, and I just loved looking at them.
You seem to have some very vivid memories of childhood, that this imagination just still flows onto the pages.
Thank you, Carol. I used to look at things when I was a little kid and see odd characteristics about them. And to me, everything was magic. You know, anything you can look at can be magic. Different people see magic in different things. Different people can pick up the same book and see different things in that book. And I like the idea that everybody has their own perspective as a reader, as an artist, as a person looking at the world, looking at the universe. And I try to put a lot of that into my books and allow a lot of different people to see different things in the books.
Which is wonderful. And in your life's work, you worked with books as well. You were telling us just before the start of the show. How did that, tell us what you did, and how did that influence what you're doing now?
I did a lot of editing of a tremendously wide variety of books, all kinds of things. And maybe my only real gift in life is good reading comprehension. So I was able to do a good job of understanding what somebody was trying to say and help them say it better. And I did that with books for elementary schools, for college, for graduate school, for professional trade schools, for novels, for corporate newsletters, for small websites and small businesses, all kinds of things. I loved the variety.
So in addition to the actual content, you would edit sort of the layout of it, you were saying?
Sometimes, yes. That had not been my intent, but I ended up doing that sometimes by the demand of my clients. So that helped me tremendously when it came time to publish my own books, having had some layout experience. It's not easy.
Maybe we could start talking about your books. Your first book was Teapots and Assorted Things. And I think the best word, and I love to describe these books as being whimsical, because they're not just for kids. They're kind of neat little stories or little poems that kind of follow the pictures. Maybe you'd like to speak to that a little bit.
I would love to. This book is really all about the paintings. The pictures are the heart and soul of this book. I stumbled across this artist on the internet when I was trying to find an artist for a different project, a totally different book, different concept. But as soon as I saw her paintings, the wheels started turning, and I said, I would love to make a book with these pictures, just add some poems to them, put it together, and it happened.
Wow. So in other words, and this is Victoria Yusova?
Yes.
So Victoria had these paintings, you saw the paintings, and you wrote vignettes or you wrote stories to the actual paintings?
Precisely, that was it. And I couldn't help myself. I looked at these paintings and the words just started to flow.
Wow.
And we became instant friends and collaborators. It was a wonderful thing.
Now, where does she live?
She lives in New York, but she was originally from Western Ukraine. And she's just one of the best people in the world, and meeting people like her was one of my great goals. When I decided to start making books, I was hoping to find artistic collaborators like that.
Now this is called Teapots and Assorted Things. Yeah. Were her pictures so assorted that you had to write different type stories that connected, or is it all one long story?
That's a really good question. The way they connect is sort of under the surface, in the subconscious of the artist. Victoria works with no consciousness of what she's doing. She doesn't know what she's going to paint when she starts. You never know what's coming out. So every painting is different, has different characters, different themes. And so the thread is just kind of her sensibility and her unique view of the world, which I happen to share, and that's why I loved her art immediately.
Why don't you give the viewers an example?
Well, here's one. It's a tall house in Paris that she painted. And I looked at this house and I said, look at that. Who in the world would not want to live in this incredible house here? Just look and look and look. The more you look, the more amazing it is. And I started thinking, who would live in a house like that, or who could live in a house like that? And I wrote a quick list of some characters who might live in that house. But for me, the beauty of this painting is that anybody can look at that house and think about who they would like to see living in that house. You could cross out my words and put in your own. Your children can say, oh, I'd like to live in this floor, and my friend can live on that floor, and my dog can live on the first floor. Anything goes. That's the way these paintings inspire thoughts.
Do you mind reading us your writing that goes with it?
I'd be glad to read it.
Terrific.
Who lives on the first floor? Perlebelle Platz. Who lives on the second floor? Dogs and cats. Who lives on the third floor? Boogaloo Spats. Who lives on the fourth floor? Bugs and bats. Who lives on the fifth floor? Ducks with hats. Who lives up in the attic? The baker who rides the bike. And you see the nice red bike there on the outside of the building. A wonderful detail, the kind of thing that Victoria does.
Wonderful.
The names in there are almost reminiscent of Dr. Seuss type things, like Perlebelle Platz.
That's a nice compliment. Thank you very much, Carol.
Bugaloo.
So a little bit of rhyme scheme going in there, clearly. And is this directed to I mean, Carol mentioned that adults can certainly read it, no question. Is it directed to a certain age child, do you think?
Another good question. No. I did not intend these to be for any particular age. I just thought that the pictures alone would appeal to anybody of any age whatsoever. And then I hoped that my words that were inspired by the pictures would appeal first, of course, to children, but that there would be enough in there between the lines to entertain some adults also, and to allow adults and children to ask questions about what's going on in some of these pages. Some of them are very simple, others have more subtlety.
That's fun. Fun for kids and their parents. That's so important at this age. You know, my kids are kind of young, but they're starting to read on their own now. But I always remember when I would start to read, they're 8 and 6. But let's just say they were 4 and 2 and I would be reading to them. It had to be long enough to keep their interest, short enough that they didn't sort of wander away. And the pictures, in this case Victoria's pictures, would have been compelling enough to keep them locked in and ask those questions.
And here's the voice of reality right here.
I think you tapped 1, 2, and 3 in the in the children's genre. At least that's the way I see it.
And this book, in my opinion, works well that way because you don't have to look at them sequentially. You can read different pages at different times, or read just 2 or 3. It's a hodgepodge.
Nice.
Here's another one that Carol seems to like very
Please.
much.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. It shows a winter scene with a little house under the snow, and two happy bunnies having tea together in their tiny little house under the snow. And for me, it's magical because it's so simple. There's a winter sky, a beautiful winter sky. You can feel the cold and the crispness. The cherries as an indication of the summer that has passed and a forerunner of the summer to come. The snow with its perfect coloring. Look at the color of that snow. Snow at dusk. She nailed it. And then the snug little tiny place where they're happily having tea together. They have everything they need. They have tea, they have something to eat, they have each other, they're happy. So for me, there's a lot to feel good about in this little painting. And the very few words that go with it. Under the snow cherries, under the snow, we have a place to go for tea.
Awesome.
I always think of tea with winter, warm
Yeah.
drinks.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good
it really
association.
matches.
Those are fundamental happy things, thoughts like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what
even when-
Victoria does so well.
And particularly the tea, you think of little kids with tea parties and little girls with their tea sets. And then even now as a big person, I love to have tea with my neighbor. It's a special treat. So I think we're about out of time, so we might want to wrap up our first half, and then we'll come back and talk about your other two books.
Great.
So let's take a break.
All right. And welcome back to Novel Ideas. Josh Brogadir here, along with Lynn Luck. And our guest tonight is Warren Ross. And Warren, thanks for being here. We're talking about some of the picture books that you've put together. Most specifically now, A Whole Nother Thing, which has a whole nother name that makes me very interested in whatever the whole nother is about the thing, even before I started reading this. I want to start with that. Nother is a word that people say all the time, but maybe don't know how to spell. You've chosen how to spell it. Tell me where this name came from and why this is the title of your book.
Well, in the 1990s, I had a website, one of whose features was a sort of advice column online. And somebody, and it was a real one, people really emailed me questions. And one question was, why do people say a whole nother thing? Is that proper or not proper? Should it be allowed or not allowed? And I started thinking, and I said, well, it's because of a particular, I don't want to give the book away too much, but
Okay.
to make a long story short, that's where the story came from. So later, when I was ready to make books, that was the first concept that I thought would make a good book. And some people spell the word N-O-T-H-E-R because it's sort of like an other thing. But I thought it was much more attractive and funny to use it with a U. So since it was my book, I was able to give it the U instead of the O for the nother.
There you go, playing with words again.
Thank you. Speaking of words, Josh, you have a wonderful name.
Thank you.
Josh Brogadir. It's a grand, heroic sort of a name.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I always tell people it's a hard name to spell, but I always say it's easy to say because Brogadir is like Brigadier, if you know a Brigadier
Yes.
General. Just make it with an O sound. It's, that's kind of easy. Now we have to spell it, though, don't we? That ends up being interesting. But thank you for that compliment. I'll pass that along to my family.
But yes, I do love working with words and playing
Yeah.
with words. And this book contains some fun words that are fun to say and that a lot of kids like to hear.
Right.
My favorite is Dingle Dong Dell.
Thank you.
Right.
I was astounded that nobody had ever put that phrase together before. I couldn't believe it.
I've never seen it, but you
And
know.
then druthers, which we'll talk about in a little while. I think druthers is one of those phrases, and I'm a lover of language and how it changes in sociolinguistics. So I'm not going to go far down that path right now, but I will say that when you have a whole nother, that A gets lopped off like a lot of things with language. It may have been another or an other. And the word druthers, that is a generational word. I might be a hair younger than the two of you, but I don't think there are many 20, 30-year-olds who are still saying druthers. I think druthers has become generational, and I love that you have it in a children's book because that brings it right there.
I appreciate that. And the person who presents the druthers is an old person in the book, which is suitable also. But
Right.
it is a great word, and it can mean who knows what. You know, once again, different people can read this book and come across with different ideas about what's happening here. It's kind of a mystery, a multiple mystery, a multi-layered mystery, a mystery within a mystery. And it can be solved in different ways by different people, and it can be discussed endlessly. What really is happening here? How did all of this happen in the first place? What's going to happen after the book is finished? It's just a whole world of mystery.
Love it.
Yeah. But it's neat too because you leave to our imagination so much. I mean, you never tell us what a druther is. And, you know, it's kind of up to the reader to throw it into their own imagination and figure it out for themselves. And it's
Exactly.
awesome.
And it is my wish
It's
in
very
all of
different.
my books to get the parent and the child talking about some of these things, about a lot of the things in the books. Questions are welcome. It's easy to think of questions when you read these books. And any discussion between parents and children, I think, is good, especially when it involves books, because that piques the interest of the kids in books even more. And then the kids can talk with other kids about the books, too. So that's what we want.
Nice.
More involvement with books, more reading, the love of reading.
Well, if I had my druthers, I'd like to dig into this book right now. So let's just do that if we can. This is a whole nother thing. Before we talk about some of the writing of this, the illustrations in this are a little bit different than the ones in your other two books. This is Jade Fang. How did you meet Jade, and how did this come about?
I endlessly searched the internet to find an artist for this book. It was a long battle. I don't think we have time for all the details of it, but by good luck, I ended up with Jade Fang, originally from Malaysia, now lives in Singapore, who turned out to be the absolute perfect match for me. We worked together so well. She has added so much to the book. Her heart, soul, and imagination went into this. It's far better than it would have been without her.
So did you send her the basic story, and she did the pictures, or how did this evolve?
I sent it to her. She sent it to her agent, because she's not allowed to make a contract without her agent.
Okay.
She liked the book, her agent liked the book, and we did it.
So unlike Teapots and Assorted Things, where you were matching to artwork, this was your book that she matched to the way that you had written it.
That's it.
Which is more traditional, I would think, for,
Yes.
for most children's books.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing when the artist's sensibility and the writer's sensibility do blend so well.
Yeah, they do. That's beautiful. Why don't you give us a little example of something in the book there?
Well, let's see here. This is a page spread that Carol likes. And I don't want to give away too much because, as I said, there are mysteries in here. So I'm going to be careful about what I say. But
Fair enough.
you see here two of the main characters of the book. And they don't look very much alike. And this page involves the word that Josh likes so much, which is druthers. And I'll just read it. Out of context, you won't know what it means, but I'll read it nonetheless.
Okay.
Then we tried something from Follansbee's mother. What did she bring us? She said they were druthers. That night I was tired, with odd thoughts in my head. I fell fast asleep when I got into bed. And then the next page contains the following words. Later on, I woke up near the end of the night, and I saw through the window a beautiful light. The basket of druthers was gone, and a trail led out of the house and across through the vale. So those are a few of the words of this book, which came pretty easily to me after having that old 1990s advice column article finished already. So all I had to do was rearrange everything into rhyming text, and there it was.
Wow, that's awesome. We sort of skipped over your second book, and when you first told me that you were writing well, it's kind of a sequel to Teapots, is the way I like to think of it, but you said the title of the book was Red Boots and Assorted Things. So I had this image in my head of a little cartoony kid standing there with big, huge, tall red boots on. And when I saw the cover of the book, I was very surprised. So tell us a little bit about this picture and this book a little as well.
Well, this picture comes from Victoria Yusova, the same artist as in the first book. And when I said a little while ago that she and I have similar artistic sensibilities, This is a good example of that, because when I first saw this fish in boots, I said, this is just spectacular. This is something that I like. And so I wanted that to be part of another book with Victoria, and it was so wonderful that I put it on the cover. Mm-hmm. And it's not a normal kind of a picture for a kid's book on a cover.
Yeah, so you just have to pick it up and look at it.
Yes, some people think it's too crazy, but I happen to like it myself.
I happen to like it as well.
I love it.
Thank you very much.
Is it inside as well, besides the cover? Is there a specific red boots story?
There is not.
Well, that's interesting.
Boots are
because-
sort of a metaphor for a lot of things that are going on in the book. If you look at all parts of this book, inside and out, cover, title page, copyright page, jacket flaps, end papers, it's all a set of clues that go together to build this sort of strange world. And the more you look, the more you see. And I hope, once again, that this book will let different people see different things in different ways within their own imaginations.
In some ways, it's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland when she falls down the rabbit hole and you find yourself in a whole nother world.
There it is.
There it
There we
is.
go. Thank you very much.
It is in our parlance. We can
Yes.
do nothing about that.
And if you would just go and read us the couple pages about the green door, because
The green door.
that was so reminiscent.
The green door. Thank you, Carol. I'm happy that you like that
Alice.
one. In my opinion, this particular one is most suited for adults, but I think it is also suited for kids, some more than others. Through that green door, I knew what never was. I knew some things I can't remember now. Those things are real, I know. I don't know how. So a lot of people might think there's not much there, but I like it, Victoria likes it, Carol likes it. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
It's wonderful. I've really enjoyed getting some of your perspective in your mind tonight, Warren Ross. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just about out of time for this evening. This, of course, has been Novel Ideas. And Carol, great working with you as always.
Yes, same here. Warren, his books are available on Amazon and in bookstores from Brookline to Belfast, Maine.
Nice.
And so check out these little indie bookstores. You might run across
Anywhere
them.
specific that people can check them out?
Wellesley Books, Brookline Booksmith, any independent bookstore. My books are listed. You can walk into any independent bookstore and order them.
Nice.
Or get them online from my website or from Amazon.
Great.
And thank you to all the folks here at Access Framingham. Thank you to our viewers. We hope we'll see you real soon. Our next show is going to be with a local mystery writer.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.